Hello and welcome to another Revel Coach conversation with Allison Nissen and my sister co-founder Marcy Stout. We are so excited that you are here with us today. We are lucky because our special guest is Erin Cichon. Erin, we are so glad you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's going on? How are you doing?
Absolutely. Allison, Marcy, thank you so much for having me. Got the pleasure of meeting Allison maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Marcy hadn't had the chance to talk just yet, but it's a privilege to be here. What's happening? What's going on? Well, I'm the director of sales and operations here at 512 New Media based in Houston. We're Houston's leading marketing and content provider. And we've spent a lot of time working with customers and clients, helping spread the message of who they are, what they do, and why they do it better. So that's professionally what I bring to the table and do on a daily basis here at the office.
Well, Erin, it's so great to meet you. I have to admit, when I was preparing for this one, I was excited for our conversation because I feel like when it comes to media, it just keeps changing. And now media is as much on the phone as it is well produced by national organizations. So would love to start with a question with where you feel media is today and the influence of like social media and how businesses can kind of, get their message out in such a crowded space.
It's an incredibly crowded space. It's only getting more crowded, and setting yourself apart, differentiating yourself is really the name of the game. It's such an important thing to differentiate yourself and set yourself apart. We have clients coming up quite a bit. We have an office here on the 12th floor here in town. And one thing that many clients are shocked to hear is how many folks are looking at information on their phone. I do it, y'all do it, but there are many people who still, surprisingly, the yellow pages or the white pages, whatever they call them, but still maybe their frame of reference for what they think is an acceptable way to market. And in some ways it can be, but more than 50% of clients and consumers of your prospective clients look at something on Instagram. YouTube is the number 2 most important, most looked at search engine behind Google, of course. And 50 or 60% plus of all information is consumed on your phone. So just a few years ago, 10 years ago, that was not the factor. Differentiating yourself and being ready to strike whenever a moment appears is the most important aspect, I think, of media today.
So being ready to strike, that's taking opportunities and using them to your advantage. What type of opportunities present themselves most frequently?
What types of opportunities present themselves most frequently? Low-hanging fruit, of course. So, for example, when you're building your website or when you're forming a company, let me start there. When you're forming your company, lots of folks think that their website is perhaps a secondary factor to the services they provide, the products that they create or that they resell. But reality, doing your website and having a calling card and having a first impression that sets yourself apart, that keeps folks on your website, keeps them informed, is really the number 1 priority. We have a common phrase here. We have clients come up when we talk, say, give us your 18-second elevator pitch. Everyone has a 5-minute elevator pitch and everyone's got a 10-minute elevator pitch, but I've never been on an elevator. And I don't know if I want to be on an elevator that is riding that long. But 18 seconds is how long you have in person. And when you're online, on the phone, Instagram, YouTube, Google, your website on the computer, you have about 3 to 5 seconds to figure it out. You have that short of a time to help folks understand what you do, who you are, and why, the most important part, why you do it better. So that's critical to the nature of our business and to helping other people tell their story.
That's wonderful.
So when opportunity strikes, the opportunity is a low-hanging fruit of fixing what you have. You have websites that were built in 2017, 2015. iPhone, what was the iPhone that was out back at that time? I don't know. I have a pretty modern phone, but folks are getting their stuff done every year. But websites are put to the second or third burner. So fixing number 1, what you have is an opportunity. Number 2, expressing yourself in a medium that your competitors are not doing. making a habit of looking at others' websites or the folks that you're competing with or in the same industry is something that you have to do on a regular basis. Stagnation is how you fall behind. Telling your story in a 30 or 60-second clip that's professionally done. Again, first impressions. Everyone's got a nephew or a niece or a son or daughter that can do something with an iPhone, but having it done in a way that's compelling, having graphics and having designs and your content written in a way that best tells your story relating to your prospective client is another opportunity to better telling your story and ultimately growing your business.
And I'd love to ask, so I agree on the whole elevator. So clearly it has to be short, and clearly not everybody's, great at kind of getting that condensed version. How do you get a client to start? And just to give a scenario, often in our community, we have authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs. And most times they're working on multiple things. So they have in their 18 seconds, they're trying to give everything that they do. How do you help them go away from features and benefits of service offerings to more their story in their elevator pitch that kind of creates more of a connection and really having people want to stay on your website or social post?
Sure. Like in person, if I'm going to meet you in person, my elevator pitch is, hi, I'm Aaron Cichon. I'm sales and operations manager for 512 New Media. And I help clients on the retail and political side tell their stories and help them reach a wider clientele. So I don't know how long that was, and I would hopefully do it without stuttering.
You're clearly good at it.
but it helps convey, it helps in a very short amount of time. It gives them the opportunity to ask a question. So if you have a moment, people will say, "Oh, really? Tell me more about that." Or you do this, or do you build websites? And that gives a chance for them to do that. The other part of your question is, how do you do that on a website? You can do that with motion, you do with video, you do it with your team in action, your product in action. You show engagement of happy clients using the product or using the service, having your team in action. Visual is how people digest information today in the visual form, more than reading, more than even pictures. The item that gets the third most engagement on Facebook is text. The second most engagement is photographs. And the number one, of course, are videos, ideally within 30 to 50 seconds. If you pull up a YouTube video and it says, 48 minutes long, depending on the product, unless it's a long form podcast or something which like this, then you're immediately going to have folks go to find something else. So using a quick hit, using visual media, using something that's going to keep them engaged like that will help you better tell that story to your client.
It's interesting because as you're talking, it was great. As you're talking, I think of how I am as a consumer versus how we are as owners of this. And I definitely go more to the stories on YouTube. I kind of scroll pretty fast and I get a quick little insight and move on to the next one. So that's an interesting way of looking at it. So I would love to ask also, so you had mentioned to Allison before that you're also really good working with brands on, say, brand crisis management, or when a brand, you're moving along and all of a sudden you hit a crossroads and something happens.
Right.
How do you kind of help customers go through and navigate uncharted waters when they're dealing with, something significant like that?
The first step when a crisis arrives on your doorstep, or more likely nowadays when you get perhaps a nasty Yelp review, or you have perhaps just a rude customer in the store, rather than coming up with a plan in the heat of the moment where you have someone either in your face in the store or in the office or somewhere where you kind of shocked to see what's online, you sit down with your team and you figure out well ahead of time when the business is opening or at pre-planned intervals, and say, look, where are our blind spots? Where are the places that we can't figure where we've received perhaps poor feedback before, or areas of vulnerability where if something were to happen, if situation A or scenario B were to occur, that would totally knock us off our game and turn the power out, and we'd have to be totally focused. Sitting down as a team, having a totally frank and honest conversation about areas of vulnerability, no holds barred, and talking about where problems may occur, may lie, is the number one step to not getting caught off guard. So the number one step is planning. And the second step is of course, when the crisis occurs, remaining calm, talking to the points of information, the management in the particular business, in your business, and understanding, okay, what should we do? Not everything is a crisis. There's perception issues, and like, oh, someone said something bad, or somebody's coming up to you with a camera, they're asking maybe nasty questions, or they want to put you on defensive mode. You're the one they're still coming to you. You still have control. They're the ones coming to you for answers. So perhaps think of a Yelp review, but think of it in person. When you're having this type of situation, you want to take a step back, just breathe and scan, look for a particular asset, look for somebody that's going to help you, and then just start maybe asking questions back at them. Say, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Try to calm and bring the situation down in a way that's disarming to them, that'll catch them off guard. Maybe not yelling at them and asking questions and so, what do you not in that type of way, but taking control of the situation. So that's step number 2. And Marcy, when we were doing our pre-chat, you had done some crisis stuff as well. So I'd be curious to hear, as well as maybe a couple of points that y'all have done. And then the third step is simply circling back, doing an after action review, an AAR, after action report on what went well, what went wrong, and working to prevent that type of situation in the future. The companies like us and companies like what you've worked in the past have the assets and the team and the experience to put clients in boot camp type situations, where we'll come up with situations based on your business and based on your work. And we'll find a way to get under your skin and say, hey, look, and not only that, but we'll have you on camera. So we could show you the before and we can show you the after. So this is what you were looking like when we caught you off guard, but this is how, after 6, 8, 4 hours of working together, this is how polished and presentable you are, both in person and perhaps online, or if there's a bad review that you need to deal with.
Aaron, there's been some big corporations that have lost some wind in their sails recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears from an outsider's perspective that they were caught off guard. And so these are big corporations. I assume they would have teams of people helping them navigate this. Were they unaware of what their customers' priorities are? Is that one of the things that might have happened?
I think that's a huge part of what what one of their failings were, and still ongoing. A lot of the times their left hand doesn't talk to the right hand. You have, first off, within the C-suite, there may be hires, there may be folks that have come along that are not known to the rest of the company and may not exactly familiar with the goals of the company. So they come either with their own ideas or their own way of doing things that don't jive with what the company does, or they have their own agenda and wanting to change it to something that's different from the brand that they had been working with for many years or many decades in the past. So having an understanding of who you're working with and who's working for you is also a big step in having crises, because a lot of these are self-inflicted wounds. These are self-inflicted wounds that are totally preventable. Mm-hmm. And we see the fallout from either giving away product for free, or there's a brand name that's tarnished in the eyes of one segment of the population or another, that's going to have a very long time. It's take a lot of money, a lot of time rebuilding that. So it's probably preventable. It is preventable.
What's interesting about your work is I know your work is external marketing and how to kind of broadcast there, but it's almost like when they hire you for that purpose because they need that. Like that's obviously like most companies have companies like yours helping them, but you're really helping them with internal leadership too, because what I love about this next generation of leaders, like the 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds, they're only joining companies where the leaders are very authentic and transparent and hit it head on. And so you're training people how to deal with crisis and be prepared, look around, like even like when you said, look around, look at the assets, sometimes it's the people on your team. So I could imagine like after impact. I don't know what the right word is, but a result of your work for the external focus. It actually helps them internally lead their own meetings better, making sure the right hand and left hand are talking and improving their internal communication skills.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right on that. It comes down to servant leadership. I'm a Texas Aggie, very proud Aggie. I was in the Corps of Cadets. They graduated in 2012 and got a degree in marketing. So I'm one of the few, I guess, that got a degree in what they actually do. So one of the things that we learned in the Corps over there is understanding who your people are, and whether you're the boss or the manager, you're ultimately leading folks to accomplish the common mission. And in so many boardrooms and in so many large companies, they don't understand who's working for them, what their goals are, and what they're bringing to the table. A lot of people have good ideas that they bring to the table, but they don't know. Sometimes they need to do a better job of discovering what those goals are. So that gives you opportunity to maybe move somebody on or put them in a different position. Had people been put in a different spot, or if we'd known who was dealing and who was talking in these particular companies, these probably would not have happened. So servant leadership and getting into the ditch with your folks and then getting into the trenches with your people would help a lot with building a brand and discovering blind spots.
And those blind spots they really are everywhere. And entrepreneurs will often be so focused on what they believe their goals are that they will miss some of the targets as they go along. And then they can be totally thrown off track because all of a sudden something happens. And it could be a small crisis. Again, it could be a Yelp review, right? I mean, I've heard of like dentists, and they have like one person who's, probably always gives a 1-star on Yelp, and then they'll give the 1 star, but that like will torpedo their entire practice maybe in their heads. It might not in reality, but if you start to believe that you're going under, it's transparent that's going to be the image that you put out. And so learning how to control that, it's so important.
It's vital, because sometimes those things get in your head. For example, you're doing a presentation when you're in middle school or high school, somebody asks a tough question, or you start stumbling and bumbling, and then the rest of the presentation is bungled up. It's the same thing with something that starts small. It gets in your head, it continues to move forward, and then it picks up steam when there's a reality that doesn't exist. You actually have a fantastic dental practice, but you have a couple of nasty people who are saying rude things, and that gets into the morale of the rest of the team. A lot of the crisis management goes into, particularly in retail spaces, qualifying your customer. Who are you working for? There are customers that you want to have, and it may be verboten to say, but there are maybe customers that you don't want to have or that are not qualified to work in your business. We do that in sales quite a bit. The customers are qualified to speak. You go to a car dealership, they're going to ask you, how much money do you have, and have you been qualified, or what's your credit score? It's that type of bluntness that Marcy was talking about earlier that's important to understanding how we figure out a situation. So there may be folks that may not be best served in your business that could move somewhere else, and understanding that helps move crises along and avoiding them to begin with.
So true. Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to go back to social media, because Allison and I, having our platform, social media is a part of it. And I will say, growing up at our time, we're not always in love with it, but we do know, like, there's so much I follow on others with social media. I know a lot of people that are watching this. Social media, we know it's a part of their communication. So I'd love to change gears and ask for some advice. So any advice for, like, in today's day and age, right? Like right now, like this week, like the best content creation or scheduling, any sort of advice you have for, let's just say, more of the DIY entrepreneurs on how to manage their social media?
Sure. Well, let me start off perhaps on a negative note and talk about things to not do. If you have,
we love it to don't list.
To don't list is my middle name. One of the things, if you have an email list, if you have a list of however many people, don't message them every day, and don't message them multiple times per day. Don't send out an email in the morning and in the evening. Those are folks that will unsubscribe from your list. Under Armour has done it to me, and I said, okay, I bought one shirt, and I'm getting 2 or 3 emails per day about some sale or some this or some that. I bought it online. I'm out. That's something that you don't want to do, because you're going to drive them crazy. You're going to drive your people mad. Instead, send an e-blast that is different, that looks different than the others. It's not just text. It's not a template that's going to send out perhaps maybe Tuesdays or Thursdays. Think about your day. Think about how you process advertisements and what's going to catch your eye. Are you going to look at something that's sent out Sunday 10 p.m.? Or, and everybody else is going to send their stuff and it's going to be at the bottom of your list? Or are you going to perhaps look at your emails when you have a break at work, maybe 10 or 10:30 in the morning, depending on what time you start? Think about what you do yourself in your particular business and figure out and go from there. Another idea is to be consistent as well on social media. So a lot of times, and it's even difficult in our business, advertising yourself is tough because you're busy serving everyone and you're growing, but that momentum will only continue if you're consistent with marketing and continually putting out content that speaks to your customers. So for example, restaurants, there's a lot of, I'll spend a lot of time looking at websites and of different industries, and they seem very random, but if you have a restaurant that shows only food, but not a restaurant that's full, some people will ask, with people in it, some people ask, well, where are the people? Let's look at the restaurant and these delicious plates of food, but where are the people that are enjoying the meals that I'm preparing? Same thing with clothing stores. You have beautiful blouses and pants and shoes, but are there folks shopping? Are you asking questions of happy customers? Those are the types of content that we think will engage with other folks to help continue the sales process and grow your business.
Oh, that's great. And then do you feel like, we were talking about a little bit of the video. So do you feel like making the reels is really, like the words that go across the reels and stuff like that? Is that like everyone should get on board with that? Yeah.
It depends on the business, and it depends on the business. So it depends on who your clientele are. So for example, I've made a visit to an industrial customer a couple of weeks ago, a prospect. Their product is $20,000 to $30,000, and they're going to do it. People are going to buy that maybe once or twice in their lives, depending on their home. They're asking, do we want to put this on TikTok? Well, think of who's TikTok serves. TikTok serves not people who have six-figure incomes, who perhaps typically serve a younger generation in many respects. YouTube perhaps would be a better way to go because there's a bit more credibility in that. Same with Facebook, et cetera. So what product you're doing and who your clientele are it will help you figure out what aspect and where you need to advertise. Does that help answer your question?
It does. I mean, again, like you give information from your point of view, and as soon as you start explaining, like, of course, that makes sense. Like it makes sense to know, like, basic consumer studies. But, I feel like social media is really, it's always good to stay on top of it because it is changing. The algorithms are changing, user experience is changing and everything like that.
Right. And of course, there's companies like us that can help you, like 512 New Media, that can help you do all that. But to someone who's just starting off, they may not have a huge budget. Helping them move forward to be able to eventually have a marketing team and consultants and folks who will help them see the bigger picture, help them get to the second, third, and fourth stage is what we do. But, just doing basic things like being consistent on social media. We'll look at Facebook posts and say, well, they haven't posted since August 15th. I was like, well, it's June 6th now. Where have they closed? Are they so busy? That will come up with questions, and you want to have a busy page, but not so busy that you're just putting up nonsense content. You want to be focused content that's consistent.
Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of getting more information, this has been a great conversation, and I would love to just, if anybody's watching this, they do want to work with you or they want to get in touch with you. 2 questions. One of which, you work primarily with retailers and people in politics. Give us a little bit more insight, a little longer than the 18-second, and then where can they get in touch with you?
So 512 New Media, we serve the retail. We serve retail clients, meaning lawyers, doctors, storefronts, gyms, dentist offices, any place that has a need to talk to the public and get their services out. So we also work with political clients, but primarily what we're talking about are entrepreneurs and perhaps small businesses who seek to grow their business. So 512newmedia.com is our website. We have a range of services that we can do, starting baby steps all the way up to major national television and radio campaigns, building websites, creating commercials, creating social media spots, creating radio spots, helping create the content and putting your entire elevator pitch in 4 or 6 words. It takes some doing to do that, but once you get the 4 or 6 words on paper, it seems like it's just so obvious. So that's the type of work that we do. 512newmedia.com is our website. We encourage all of you to check it out. And my email is aaron@512newmedia.com, 2 A's. And we're happy to answer any questions and provide a consultation and see maybe where some of your blind spots are and help you out.
It's wonderful. Aaron, well, so great to meet you. I appreciate you giving us some insight and spending our time with us. So on behalf of my sister, Allison and I, we want to appreciate everyone for joining us today for another Revel Coach conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. And it was a pleasure to be here and look forward to talking to y'all again in the future.
That's great.
Revel Coach is a collaborative platform that builds leadership programs for entrepreneurs, coaches, executives, and authors. For more information, visit us at revelcoach.com and follow us on LinkedIn to never miss an update.